You can't really talk about the electrical grid out here in California without talking, of course, about the weather. I know there's been a little bit of relief from all the rain that we've seen over the past few months, but the wildfires this season is still out there, and people really want to know how prepared is the state, how prepared is Edison International?
Well, Romaine, thanks for having me on, and great question. The reality is that in California, we are at the leading edge of seeing the impacts of climate change. And so the kinds of fire seasons we saw beginning around 5 years ago were like nothing we had experienced before. We are prepared. Our company has been investing significantly in hardening our infrastructure. And so we've disclosed to investors that a third party has estimated that we now have a 75 to 80% lower probability of our infrastructure triggering a catastrophic fire than we did just 5 years ago. And that's through significant investment in the grid, replacing bare wire with a covered conductor, a number of other initiatives as well. And it's not just us, but it's also the state. Under Governor Newsom's leadership, the state has really doubled down on fire suppression. And so increased the size of the staff at CAL FIRE, the equipment they have. So we're much better prepared than we were 5 years ago as a state.
Pedro, that is great news, certainly welcome news after the last couple of years with the wildfires. Of course, this past winter has been epic when it comes to rainfall and precipitation. I noticed that PG&E says it sees $500 million in California winter storm costs. Do you have a similar estimate at Edison?
I don't have one on me, and actually we've been fortunate in Southern California. We did not have nearly the impact that our colleagues at PG&E had. In fact, we were able to send mutual assistance crews to help PG&E a couple of times during some of the storms. At one point we had almost 100 of our team helping PG&E. But I think that the reality is that we are going to see more climate volatility. We published a white paper last year called Adapting for Tomorrow, looking at what the climate models say, and we're going to see more weather, whether it's wildfires, droughts, floods, sea level rise. So we need to harden our infrastructure, not just as utilities, but really across the whole economy.
Pedro, one of the big changes going on out there is, of course, the idea of having a more diverse selection of automobiles. The idea of if moving to fully electric vehicles, certainly alternative vehicles. But as we've seen, sort of the real hiccup in that plan right now is the infrastructure, and more importantly, whether you have an electrical grid that can support mass adoption of electric vehicles.
So we can. Already you've seen that across the U.S. last year, 7% of new vehicle sales had an electric plug. In California, that was 20%. And we've been managing that well here in California. It will take planning. And that's what utilities need to be doing. It also takes collaboration with customers, particularly less so at the passenger vehicle level, but more so when you look at large fleets. If a large fleet operator puts a new depot with multiple heavy-duty vehicles, that's a significant increase in the electric load. So we want to make sure we're getting early notice from those customers so that we can plan ahead. But I think as an industry, this is what we do. We plan in terms of decades. And we're also collaborating with our peers across the country. I'm vice chair of the Edison Electric Institute, and we're collaborating to develop a national electric highway that's really focused on high-speed charging along the interstates.
No, and critical, of course, given all the EVs in California. Pedro, last question for you. We have about a minute and a half left. In terms of California meeting its clean energy goals, there are a lot of wind and solar plants that may have to wait to get hooked up to the grid. What are you doing at Edison to move that along?
Yeah, so we are working on investing in the grid, and this year we're investing around $6 billion. As an industry, we're investing around $120 billion nationwide to make sure that we increase the size of the grid. And I think we're making good progress, but more needs to be done. Permitting and siting reform will be helpful at the national level. And I just finish by saying that there's a large job ahead. It will require investment, but there's also a promise not only decarbonization. We think this will make things more affordable because electrification will lower the total energy bill for our customers by about 1/3 by 2045. So, greater efficiency in using an electric motor instead of a gasoline engine, for example, and that's good for customers.